Welcome back to On Point, 3-year-old second season edition. James, we've had some decent 3-year-old races since the Belmont Stakes, certainly with the filly Songbird last week. But in earnest, the second half of the year really starts this weekend with the Jim Dandy and the Haskell. Some big names returning to the races.
Absolutely, yeah. The top three from the Derby are in the Haskell, and then the Belmont Stakes winner is in the Jim Dandy, and that as well as Destin, who was an 02nd, and Mohamed makes his comeback. So both races are look pretty important on paper.
Yeah, and we've talked about Nyquist being the leader of the division, obviously with the Triple Crown races being spread apart. Some opportunity for Exaggerator and Creator, and maybe even Gunrunner or Motom or Moeman if they were to run the table in the second half of the year. But Nyquist does have the 2 Grade 1 wins, including the big one in the Derby. If he were to keep winning, he'd be a no-brainer. But he's got a short field, but a tall task in the Haskell.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And there's another speed horse in there, and it's Bob Baffert's American Freedom, who's 3 for 4 in his career. Baffert's won 8 Haskells, so, he knows how to get a horse ready for that race. And I guarantee you they would have, I know it's a short field, but they would have preferred the drawn outside. In the Derby, he was outside. In the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he was outside, even in the Florida Derby. But they got post 1, so that might force his hand from the start. It'll be interesting to see how much speed American Freedom shows, but yeah, it'll be no easy task in breaking from the innermost post.
Yeah, and Baffert's had obviously some big names win the Haskell, American Pharoah last year, Point Given, War Emblem. He's won it with some off-the-wall horses too. I think Coyle's a Haskell winner.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's not always the big name from his barn.
Bayard won it.
Yeah, and he doesn't have the biggest names this year, so he's worth watching. I know you and I, though, agree on the upsetter. Exaggerator, I just worry about his fitness. The workout reports weren't great. He wasn't even pointing for this race until they said on Wednesday, hey, we're going to the Haskell. I don't blame him. The money's bigger. They get the participation bonus, and they get to take on Nyquist. If they want to be champion, they have to beat the champion. I understand why they'd want to go there, but at the price, I'm shooting with Gunrunner, pun not intended, believe it or not. I loved his comeback race after the Derby. Thought he ran well in the Derby. Think he's more a 1.125 horse than a 1.25. We saw that in Louisiana. He just seems like the right horse at the right price.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's made great progress this year. For Steve Asmussen, came in the Derby off of a 6-week rest, and I thought he ran his eyeballs out. And the thing was, he just got a little bit tired in the final furlong. 1.25 might have been was too taxing for him at that time. 1.125 is the perfect fit. And like I said, I think there's 2 speed horses in there, and he gets hit the perfect trip at third. I agree with you about his comeback race, and looks like he could be sitting on a big race here, big second half of the season.
Yeah, for me, other than Nyquist, there's no other horse who's been as consistent as Gunrunner. And, the Derby was third. He wasn't good enough that day. I do think Nyquist maybe is better at their best, but I'm not sure we'll see Nyquist best, and I think Gunrunner's been pointing for this for so long. Now's the time at the price. What happens after the Haskell, many will probably see in the Travers, and the local Travers prep is the Jim Dandy. We have the 1-2 from the Belmont, as you mentioned, Creator and Destin, and then the 4th from the Derby, Moeman, looking to get back on track. He was undefeated, lost his last 2. Certainly with the way his trainer, Karen McLaughlin's going, though, Moeman's going to get a lot of attention.
Absolutely, and it's just tough for me to go against him. I think it's really between Destin and Mohamed, but I just think that, in 1.125 too, I don't know about him going 1.25 in the Travers, but I think 1.125 is a good distance, good setup, and I expect him to run real well on Saturday.
Yeah, and I'm siding with Destin on top, but I'm going to take a look at the races around there. Sometimes I'll say, hey, I'm going to single. I don't want to double the cost of my ticket. And other times, that Songbird sequence paid over $1,000 for 50 cents. There were a couple big prices in there. So if I think there's some long shots, I won't want to lose with Moeman, but my ticket's going to start with Destin, and we'll go from there. And I haven't looked at the race order yet. I should have.
They don't have the Bowling Green part of the League Big Four.
I figured.
So
knowing Nyra like we do, it
Yeah.
seemed like they would move that early with Flintshire. But he's another horse, obviously the older turf division, not 3-year-old, but I'm excited to see him come back.
Absolutely, yeah. 1-5 on the morning line. They also have the Vanderbilt is a Grade 1 race before the Jim Dandy. I was on Holy Boss at Pimlico, and thought he'd run well last time in the True North and got beat both times. But I loved his Amsterdam win last year. Could be a little bit of horse of course. So I like Holy Boss a little bit in that spot.
All right, well, the major players are back from the 3-year-olds. who would be your Travers pick right now? And make that pick assuming he runs well enough this weekend. Not necessarily win, but looking at, who we've seen so far, the Travers a mile and a quarter in a few weeks. Who's the horse you're most excited about for that race based on, hey, all the big names are in the prep races this weekend?
And that is a tough one. I'm sort of like of the opinion, with Creator. I mean, I know that both of his wins, Arkansas Derby and Belmont Stakes, have come at double-digit odds. And if that horse runs, say fourth, say Governor Balbu hits the board in the Jim Dandy, and he's fourth, he could come back in the Travers, big field, good pace, and run his eyeballs out at a mile and a quarter. So there's a horse that I think don't like him on Saturday, but I think he's very dangerous going forward. Creator.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I'll stick with Destin. I shouldn't say stick. It's not like I've had a Travers pick before here, but I made no bones. I didn't love his preparation, what there was of it for the Derby. A lot of respect for the talent. So hopefully we'll see a big performance this weekend, or hopefully for me, and he'll be the one in the Travers. Although who knows what the price will be at that point. But if Nyquist, an Exaggerator, and Gun Runner all run well and come up, he might be okay again. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's definitely got a chance to really, come on the second half of the season for Pletcher.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. We'll look forward to this weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.